Let's go!
A scheme variation fit to be able to hold these guys.
We're breaking down the single most important question for this spring.
LSU, when they play really good fronts, doesn't run the ball.
You have not been able to produce a sound and stable run game.
To me, the biggest issue with the LSU run game was the lack of identity. So you see a few coaches in the background here. The two that we'll focus on, Alex Atkins, the tight end coach, and Brad Davis, the offensive line coach. Now, this is very important information because Alex Atkins is the run game coordinator. Now, normally the run game coordinator on most staffs is the offensive line coach. So why is Alex Atkins the RGC? Well, he was the offensive line coach at Florida State. Counter might be the run concept that LSU specializes in next season. Now, why did the LSU run game struggle last year? Well, a lot of it was because they did not have an identity. There wasn't a go-to run play that worked for us. Now, one thing that's important is that at Florida State, when Mike Norvell's offenses were clicking, this run concept called counter, which is a misdirection concept that involves at least one player pulling to the opposite side of the line of scrimmage, that might be our go-to run concept. First thing is when you run counter, it is very important to not give away that you are running counter. One thing that would give this away to me is the position of Cohen Eccles, the right guard. All right, you see how everybody else is on the line of scrimmage? Cohen Eccles, you could see his hand is a little bit further back. This left foot is a little bit wider here at like right before the snap. So that to me would be a giveaway that LSU might be running counter here. So these are the things that you work on, obviously, in spring. So this variation of counter is called counter GY. You're pulling the guard and the tight end, the Y, okay? So you'll see that on this rep, the offensive line is Carius Kern, Solomon Thomas. So these are two true freshmen. This is honestly the second team offensive line. Braylon Moore, he comes from Virginia Tech. I don't believe, after watching Virginia Tech really closely, because obviously we brought in two different transfers, I don't believe they were a counter-heavy team. So this is kind of news for him. And this is redshirt freshman Ethan Callaway in year 2. You also have Cohen Eccles, who we just mentioned. And this is transfer tight end Donovan Green, a former top 100 recruit who came over from Texas A&M. All right? So obviously you're not going up against an actual defense. You're going up against a scout team offense right here. So this isn't the most game-like rep, but this honestly is very, very, very encouraging. Obviously, you want to kick out this in this way. And then with Donovan Green, we want, obviously, this is not bad. We'll see what Coach Atkins says here. He obviously instructs him to do something different, okay? It's impossible for me to know at this point. I would just be guessing. Maybe he was a little too square on that rep. Sometimes on counter, you want that right helmet to be to the right or the left shoulder of the offensive lineman because we want to kick him out this way. That might have been it. And another thing about these counter reps is that you want them to be tight, right? We don't want our guard and our tight end way back into the backfield because that can disrupt the timing. That's been a big issue when we've run counter in the past couple of seasons, all right? Now, I understand this is not the most free-flowing video, but that's why it's so freaking important to rep this and get good at this, okay? Now, once again, there might be being taught for the guard to be a little bit further back, but you know, you want to be as tight to the line of scrimmage so you don't give away what you're doing, okay? Now, let's see this rep. Okay, so this is interesting. This time, the play side in elected to do something called a wrong arm technique. So on the last play, the in decided to stay outside and you kicked him out. This time, though, the in elects to get underneath the puller to close the gap that you're trying to run through. So Cohen Eccles has to make a really good read right here, and this honestly is really good. We want to wash him this way, and the running back just needs to read that this is the new gap. So this honestly was a really, really, really good rep. But, obviously, I do prefer my coaches to coach hard. I love that. I really, really, really do. Okay? So there you go. Let's see if we hit one more rep here. The bottom line, though, is this just needs to be LSU's thing, right? If you're going to practice this, and once again, this is just one practice. I don't know how often they've practiced this play in particular. I just want one run concept in particular that we are good at. It could be lead, it could be duo, it could be outside zone, which is my favorite. But whatever the case may be, this is just so vitally important. Another tight end, and this is a multiple-year player, Giovanni Peterson. He's a walk-on, okay? I think he deserves a scholarship, man. He's put a lot into this program, okay? This obviously was not a great rep. Let's see what happens here. Now you see this is just not clean at all. Let's see. Could 66 right here, Solomon Thomas, have done a better job? Yeah, I mean, that could have been better, but still, you get the point, right? You see how important this is. Now, the thing about counter is that it is a very effective run concept. Bo Bordelon alongside Weston Davis to the right side of this offensive line. DJ Chester, the returning starter at center. I think many believe this will be Braylon Moore next year. We'll see what happens there. You have Tyree Adams here, and then I believe you have Paul Mabenga, also a returning starter. So let's see how this counter rep goes. Yeah, that was messy. Very, very, very messy. You could see right here, okay? This honestly is a pretty good look, if you ask me. These are obviously tight end type of players, but you'll see that this is Solomon Thomas. So while he's not a defensive lineman by trade, this is a big boy. And then Carius Kern, I've shared before. I've talked to Carius a few times now. I really do believe he could play defensive tackle if he wanted to. All right, so these are big boys. All right, these are SEC level caliber athletes at DT, and you'll see that they just actually blow this play up. All right, you'll see that it's actually Weston Davis. So the way that this is supposed to work, let's see. If I am instructing this play, I would want Bo Bordelon to help get a piece of Carius Kern right here. Right? You don't necessarily have to block him if Weston Davis is this assignment right here. But the reason why I would want my guard to get a piece of Carius Kern is that this is such a difficult block for the play side tackle to make. So by getting a piece and then working up to the second level, you're allowing Weston Davis to get over and help make this block. So let's slow-mo this here, and you'll see that this is a very difficult block by Weston Davis. Now, this also is not great technique from Weston Davis. I think he's a little too upright right here, and then the pad level is just dominant. So I would have liked to have seen a little hand or something like that to help Davis get over here just a bit, but Carius Kern blows this play up, and you'll see Mabenga can't get through there, and he gets caught up in the mush, and now it's just a mess. That was a really, really, really rough rep all around. The vibes are vibing, baby. 6 is Berrien Brown, 2 Destin Hill, 12 is Kyle Parker. That's a second-team offense getting ready to go, and you see the first-team offense. You guys know the offensive line. Obviously, that's Caden Durham, Trades Green, and your receivers, Aaron Anderson, who's catching the pass right there. You also will see Chris Hilton and I believe the other receiver. Oh, we'll get to that in a second. But what I need you to do in the comment section below, the other receiver is Xavion Thomas, by the way. What should be LSU's staple run concept? Should they go back to 2019 LSU and run duo? Whatever the case may be. Let's see something that could get us a run game established. Now, we've said this plenty of times. Garrett Nussmeier's lack of rushing ability. or more so, his lack of want-to run does hamstring what you can do. But obviously, I don't really care too much about that because Garrett is an elite quarterback. By the way, he just flew back in from Pasadena shooting the cover of the NCAA new video game, according to Preston Guy. But you see in the background, fade route right there to Chris Hilton. Hopefully we see a lot of that next year. Now you get the second team offense out there. Carius Kern at left tackle, left guard. Solomon Thomas, Braylon Moore, Ethan Callaway, and Cohen Eccles, Bauer Sharp, the transfer tight end. Caleb Jackson working with the twos at the running back position. And it's Kyle Parker, Destin Hill, and Barron Brown, who we just mentioned. Now, before I get back into the run game, we did unearth a tell from a really reliable source regarding Michael Van Buren. I hope the LSU coaches watch this on Patreon because there was a player who revealed something about Michael Van Buren as a true freshman that hopefully changes next year. So I will link that Patreon breakdown down below. By the way, if you sign up, you get a Joe Burrow card in the mail, and at the end of April, we are giving away an autographed Jamar Chase uniform. But I love me some Michael Van Buren. You see a counter GT rep in the background. That was a guard and the tackle pulling around. So whatever it is, whatever that run play might be, it needs to be good. And there's so much more to the run game than just being good at running a play. A lot of it also is Joe Sloan calling the plays. Will our run sequencing get better? Now, our next Patreon deep dive will talk about the pistol. I will say, Alex Atkins is a fan of the pistol formation. All right, I just want to share that. And Joe Sloan also loves him some pistol formation. I got a little too, I guess you could say, predictable when we got into pistol, which is when the running back is directly behind the quarterback. But I do want to share this at the end. This is Jawan Johnson. Part of the problem with spring is that you don't have enough offensive linemen, so we only have 3 here. This is Kari Lee. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Harlem Berry.
He had a chance to maybe bounce a play where he really crammed it inside and took the 3 or 4 yards, and it was the right read. Those are, you really don't coach those things. You just have a knack for them or you don't. And so those early indications are really positive. He's got to keep building in the weight room.
So that was Brian Kelly talking to the media about HB. That's cool. It's interesting. So Jawan Johnson misses a throw right there. I am very fascinated by Harlem Berry's fit because, you know, I don't know if counter is the best run scheme for his skill set, but, man, I'm telling you, he's got juice, man. He's got wiggle. He's got all those things you like to see out of a running back. But as you heard from BK, the size needs to come along. But, man, I'm excited about him. So let me know what you guys think, and we'll talk to you soon. We'll do more defense in the next breakdown, I promise you. Flooding in your face is part 1. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Tonight we are doing... Oh, my fast is over. Yes, we're doing ribs.